So I want to talk about why the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy, Episode 7, 8, and 9, and really Disney Star Wars overall, is, in my opinion, going to be looked at when all is said and done as a failure for Star Wars fans. Now, I want you to understand when I say failure, I'm not talking about box office failure or financial failure because the reality is all these movies make money. No matter how bad the movie is, Solo was it still made money despite it not making as much as they wanted it to. All these movies make money. The prequels have been panned and crapped on for years, but they still make money because of the power of the original trilogy. The original trilogy is such an important piece of history. I wouldn't even say film history, I would say world history. That's how important those movies are. And they have resonated with so many different generations and so many different people that everything that has the word Star Wars attached to it, no matter how commercialized it is or not, is going to make money. It's just how it is. And I want to talk about why the sequel trilogy, specifically episode 7, 8, and 9, to me, when all is said and done, will never be viewed as fondly or as beloved as the original trilogy. Now, I know some folks are saying, well, of course not. I mean, the original trilogy's been around for over 40 years, and Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Darth Vader. These are pop culture icons in every sense of the word. And one of the reasons as to why The Force Awakens made so much money and why there was so much hype around that movie is because people wanted to see the continuing adventures of Luke Skywalker and his friends for literally years, myself included. We got sequel stuff like Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy. We've gotten these things in the past, stories that take place after Jedi, because we all want to know what happens after Jedi. Did Luke start a new Jedi Academy? Did Leia and Han rebuild the Republic? All the questions we had way back in the day, we wanted to see it because we love that universe that George Lucas created. And unfortunately, because of the missteps and the lack of direction from Kathleen Kennedy and really all of Lucasfilm for the sequel trilogy, it's literally too late. And that's what really sucks, is that no matter what, you cannot undo the damage that episodes 7, 8, and 9 did for what could have been episodes 7, 8, and 9. See, I feel like most Star Wars fans wanted to see the continuing adventures of Luke Skywalker, even though the prequels, before they came out, because I remember before the prequels came out, how hyped we were to see the stuff that they talked about in the old trilogy. We wanted to see, the old Republic, the Jedi at their peak. We wanted to see a younger Yoda. We wanted to see a younger Obi-Wan. We wanted to see Anakin Skywalker, this mythical war hero. And we really didn't get to see how much of a hero he was until the Clone Wars TV show, because he wasn't portrayed as very much of a hero in the films, with the exception of a few things here and there in Revenge of the Sith, which is when he turned bad. We wanted to see these things, and needless to say, the prequels just didn't meet those expectations. And one could argue that the sequel trilogy, no matter what, could never hit those expectations. But I feel like what we wanted was the continuing adventures of Luke Skywalker, who was our hero, after the passing of his father, being redeemed, and what he would learn from the Force. And like I said, books and novels and comic books, stuff like that, already covered it. But when actually Disney took control and wanted to make these into movies, they had to decanonize all the previous stuff and start fresh, because you can't just do a movie, adaptation of Dark Empire or whatever. It just wouldn't have worked. But they did take ideas from it. And when Force Awakens was all said and done, I was very happy with the film, and I was looking forward to it, to where the sequel trilogy would go, because I love Force Awakens. But looking back on it now, there were a lot of things that I think fans wanted that we didn't get. For example, the reunion of Han, Luke, and Leia together, the trio on screen one more time, an older Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill. And what really sucks, and this really sucks, is the fact that even if these three movies, 7, 8, and 9, wound up not giving that to us, there was still a chance that at some point they could have done a standalone Star Wars movie in between episodes 6 and 7 that could have had them united together and having an adventure. Problem is, Carrie Fisher passed away in real life, and I don't think fans are going to accept Carrie Fisher not being Princess Leia. Like, you could do the whole CGI thing and voice match. I don't think people are going to accept that if they do that. So this idea of seeing our three leads back together on screen is never going to happen. And Mark Hamill himself has talked about this. It's just never going to happen. The issue, too, is that one of the things a lot of Star Wars fans wanted is to see Luke Skywalker at the peak of his power, possibly even surpassing Yoda and Palpatine as far as his power in the Force. And again, we did not see that. In Episode 8, we saw Luke Skywalker really do a very impressive move by projecting himself across the galaxy, but we didn't get to see that badass Luke Skywalker who really could show the galaxy what the power of the Force really is. We're just never going to see that. And well, let me take that back. We might see it in Episode 9 if they do resurrect Luke Skywalker and we see it, but is it really going to mean as much? That's the question. And here's the other issue. It's not just the fact that we never got that reunion of the trio in the sequel trilogy. It's just more of the same stuff. You know, instead of creating a new villain, you know, a totally new villain like the Yu Zhang Vong, a different sort of enemy like a Dark Jedi or a different kind of Sith. Instead, we got the First Order, which, as much as I like the First Order, you can tell it's just going to be a nostalgia trap because the First Order is essentially the Empire. I mean, there's very few differences. They use Star Destroyers, they have TIE Fighters, they have Walkers, they have Stormtroopers. It essentially is the Empire. At least with the prequels, you got new ships, new kinds of, you know, enemies, different kinds of aliens, you got droids. With the First Order, it's just more of the same stuff. So it's almost like the Return of the Jedi story that's supposed to be the solution to all this means nothing because the war kept going. Even though it took years for it to start up again, it really didn't mean anything. And I think that may have hurt, you know, the sequel trilogy. Even though when it first happened, I know why they did it. They wanted to do a retro movie to make it like the old ones because that's what fans wanted. But I think it was too much like the old ones. And I think that one of the problems is, and here's really the main reason as to why I think the sequel trilogy is going to end up flopping creatively, not financially, creatively, is because a lot of people love Last Jedi. A lot of people hate Last Jedi. So I feel like when all is said and done, you're not going to be able to, regardless of the quality of Rise of Skywalker, you're not going to be able to watch this trilogy, 7, 8, and 9, back to back, and feel the same kind of pleasant emotion you felt from the original 3, A New Hope, Empire, and Jedi, because if you love Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker undoes Last Jedi, you're going to feel cheapened, you're going to feel screwed. And if you hate Last Jedi and you end up loving Rise of Skywalker because it fixes all the problems Last Jedi started, you're going to end up wanting to skip Last Jedi. You're going to want to be like, well, damn, like I don't want to watch Episode 8 because it sucks. I want to just watch 7 and then watch 9. And that's bad. Like you don't have that, it doesn't have that same synergy as the original trilogy does whatsoever. It just doesn't have it. And I feel like, to be honest with you, I don't think Star Wars fans really want things to be too different. I feel like the classic storytelling, the hero's journey, needs to kind of be kept the same. I don't think Star Wars should try to be too complicated, and I feel like if they did match the original trilogy beat for beat, they probably would have gotten better results from the Star Wars fans, even though I wish they would do something different. You can't do something too radically different. And I feel like with Force Awakens, with Episode 7, whatever, they could have given us, like, that could have been the retro movie. Then they could have moved forward with something different. But the problem is that Last Jedi is just not what the people wanted, at least, you know, most Star Wars. Well, I can't say most, but a big portion of them, because the numbers don't lie. You know, and the way that Lucasfilm has reacted to fans and kind of been very passive-aggressive towards fans is really disgusting, and that's something that was totally unnecessary. People were petitioning for them to remake Episode 8. That's never going to happen. You're never going to have a petition to redo a movie. Movies cost millions. They're not going to take the risk of redoing a movie. And I think at some point, they probably might reboot the entire old trilogy, and they probably might, you know, actually do, you know, remake them, which I'm not going to be a fan of. No matter who acts in it, who directs it, those are movies that I think just should not be redone. They just shouldn't be remade at all. And I feel like at the end of the day, when all is said and done, we're going to hold the original trilogy in such high esteem. And even the prequels, I think, have a lot of love. But the sequel trilogy, and maybe JJ can do something. Maybe with Rise of Skywalker, he can make episode 8 mean something and still have episode 9 fix episode 8. It's possible, but I feel like it's just never going to be that consistent, 3-act structure because of a lack of direction. You're going to go in a few years, watch 7, 8, and 9 and just be like, damn, like this doesn't even feel like it's the same story. And it's not, because you have different creative minds, wanting to go in a different direction. So I think at the end of the day, what could have been from 7, 8, and 9, we could have had a great adventure. It could have felt adventurous. It couldn't have been passive aggressive like Last Jedi was towards fans. Didn't have to be super pandering like Rise of Skywalker seems to be. Just a little bit of pandering, a little bit of fan service. I feel like when all is said and done, we're just not going to remember these movies fondly. And I feel very strongly on that. Same thing goes for Solo and for Rogue One. Got to be honest with you. As much as there are good and bad things about those films, I just don't think people are going to remember them anywhere close to as fondly as the original 3 movies, no matter how good they were. Well, let me take that back. If they were good, they might. But I just don't. It's just not going to happen because it's too disjointed. It's too polarizing. If you hate 8 and love 9, you're going to not want to watch 8. And if you hate 9 and love 8, you're going to stop at 8. See what I'm saying? So it's just, or you're going to want to stop at 8. It's just, this is a very big challenge on J.J. Abrams' plate to make episode 9 great. And I wonder if he's up to the challenge. And to be honest with you, his film history, he's made good movies, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't really made that many classic films. And he's kind of a parrot director, and I do respect him, but he's kind of a parrot director. He copies other directors. He's baby Spielberg, he's baby Lucas. He needs to be J.J. Abrams, although I do love Mission Impossible 3. So if you agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, also let me know. It sucks because we're never going to get to see Mark, Harrison, and Carrie together, on screen. It really sucks, like big time. Maybe we'll get animated versions or something. We'll get, we'll get something like that maybe. It's just not going to be the same. And I think people really wanted that trio to reunite and keep the story going. So it sucks, but I just think that at the end of the day, the sequel trilogy is just not a creative success at all. And I think it's just poor planning, very poor planning. So thank you for watching, and I'll talk to y'all in the comments.